Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We will start focusing on education today. So many things connected to this one, but we'll dissect them as we progress, we reckon. But we're joined now by Professor Abiola Awosika, faculty, who is the Rector, Olawoyin Awosika School of Innovative Studies. Good morning, and thank you for coming on.
Good morning.
Today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, if we start off with education, and by the way, we had that conference that it was focused on education, and everyone at that time thought, okay, fantastic template, if only we will run with this one. You spoke a lot at that conference as well. What has happened ever since then? I mean, what's going on?
Work is still going on with NEST 20. Okay. And I'd like to say that one of the first things that we had asked for, even though we did not put it openly in the recommendation, that we get a minister who will do the job, someone with a background qualified to do the job. And I think appointing the new minister is a step in that direction, because no matter what we put out there as recommendations, if we do not have someone on that seat who is fit for purpose, who is committed to education that's fit for purpose, then we would have done it in vain. So I believe this is a step in the right direction. The new minister has had a lot of time in the ministry. He was DG a couple of times. He's been in education for a long time. And so hopefully that is a step in the right direction. Now, a lot of things are happening that gives me personally some concern. First of all, we lowered the JAMB scores again this year, 180 for universities, 150 for colleges of education and polytechnics.
You think we shouldn't be doing that?
Well, if we are going to use JAMB, let's use it properly. Let's not water down the system. But if we're not going to use JAMB, then let's task the universities and colleges of education to have curricula that will build up solid people, especially for the colleges of education. Essentially what we're saying is you can go into our colleges of education with an E grade, 38%. That's all you need, because total JAMB 400. So we're saying 150 out of 400 is okay. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to have the curriculum to back those people up when they show up, so that it's not just theoretical. We're giving them a solid foundation in how to teach, what to teach. And we can't even blame JAMB, because if we're having S75, and I'm not sure how many people actually know what S75 is. S75 is school cert failed. You didn't make any papers. So you did go through high school, and so they just give you something to show for it. S75s are teaching in our secondary schools, teaching SS2, SS3.
In our secondary schools?
In Nigeria. In fact, Ekiti, to be specific, has that issue. S75s teaching in secondary schools. So our problems are many. I shudder when I think of what we really need to do to overhaul this educational system. I'm doing some work with one of the top universities here in Nigeria. We're putting their programs online. They have 5 degrees. 2 of those degrees are education degrees. One is in accounting, the other is in economics, and another one is a BSc in nursing. To date, we've had maybe 4 people show interest in the 2 education programs. Everyone was swamping to the nursing and the accounting and economics. And it's just that it's a last resort degree. Education is where you go when you have nowhere else to go. And it should not be that way. Because the people teaching our students should be excellent, stellar individuals. But we're putting our dregs into where we need to put, the top ones.
How did we get to this? Because it wasn't always like this.
I know, but see, the standard kept getting lowered. And before we knew it, we're in this fix.
Was it about the standard or also about the remuneration in terms of, the kind of jobs or the kind of pay that teachers were getting?
That's where it, yes, that is true. But the standard also was such that teachers were the big shots in any village, any city, any town. When you say you're the son or the daughter of a teacher, it was like, wow, back then, in the days of my parents. And, my father had he was Minister for Education in the First Republic. And in his time, our public schools were good enough for us to attend. I attended Ibadan City's Council School. And after he died, I moved to our town in Ondo, and I attended local authority school too. And I'm a product of that system. And I'm proud to say I'm a product of a Nigerian educational system that worked.
And the knowledge you got from those schools then at that point in time took you out of Nigeria and you were able to fit in?
Yes, sir. In fact, out of Nigeria to where my colleagues or my teammates would ask, how did you get to know all this stuff that you know? Where did you go to school? And I would say, well, I didn't go to school here. I went to school in Nigeria. My teachers would ask, how do you come to speak English better than we do? That is the truth. That was the educational system back then. And gradually, the teacher started being relegated. And all of a sudden, nobody wants to be a teacher anymore. Finland, they picked their educational system and, I want to say, swung it around. Because what they did was to take the teaching profession and elevate it. You would be driving down the street and you see billboards. Teachers are the life source of this economy. But what they did was they picked the best of their best. 2-1, first class. And when you teach the total person. You're not teaching to pass an exam. In fact, they abolished any kind of standardized examination. And when they tested this out with the rest of the world, they beat everybody else. In an economy where nobody takes a standardized test. And they beat the United States of America, they beat Norway. Because now teachers are special. They're paid like they pay at these telcos and oil companies.
We understand that some of them don't get to do any exams until a certain age. I mean,
16.
The younger ones, until 16. Mm-hmm. So how do we approach or adapt a policy that works for us?
See, we first of all have to equip. And first of all, and I know this is not politically correct, but we need to flush out the ones that are not really supposed to be in our educational system. Any teacher that is not qualified to be there should not be there. Let's find them something else to do because our children are too special for that. The future of this country is too special for that.